I'm Larry Vickers, the host of TAC TV. I'm a trained firearms professional with years of experience in the industry. So unless you're properly trained, never attempt anything you see on this show, ever. One of the most requested episodes in TAC TV history is fixing to come at you. The HK416, a weapon that I was involved with early on, and a good buddy of mine from HK, Robbie Reedsma, who was involved with the M27 IAR, is here to help me out as a co-host on this episode. Okay, before the 416 came along, the guns that were being used for CQB purposes was the M4 carbine with a 14.5-inch barrel, and also the MP5. And the issue there is the M4 is a great gun, and it did very well in the role, except it's a little bit too big. The theory is you need a gun that's a little bit more compact, a little bit more towards the size of an MP5 for CQB for confined spaces. Now, if you go back to the MP5, great gun, but remember, it's a 9mm caliber weapon, meaning you're basically shooting a large, select fire, easy to shoot 9mm pistol. Very effective within room distances, but if you step outside and you have to take a shot down a street or whatnot at a guy 100, 150 meters away, you're basically shooting at him with a handgun. So there need to be something that kind of bridge the gap. Now, short-barreled M4 style weapons or CAR-15s have been around since Vietnam. The issue is the directed impingement gas system has limitations in a very short format. That's one of the reasons why Colt settled on a 14.5-inch barrel. It needs that additional dwell time for the projectile to get past the gas port, build up the pressure to cycle the action before it exits the muzzle. Now, I knew enough about weapons design to know what was really required was a short-barreled weapon with a piston operating system. And at the time, we looked at different weapons like the SIG 5.52 and the G36C, and they're both great guns, but the truth be told, much like a 1911, once you get used to the operating system of an M16 or an M4, it's hard to go off on anything else. The ergonomics, the safety, the mag release, all that is superb. That's why you're seeing guns today like the SCAR and whatnot that have been designed using those controls. So when I went over to Germany on the ill-fated HK 1911 project, really went nowhere, and I was in Ernst Mauch's office, a good man who was the CEO of HK at the time. I saw he had a blueprint on the wall, and his vision was to make an improved M4. He'd heard reports on the M4 carbine and whatnot, and where I came from, we really weren't having a lot of those issues. We used the gun in semi-automatic, and we didn't put a lot of high volume of fire downrange, so we didn't have the issues he was addressing, but I knew there was a silver lining in there that if I could get on board with HK at the time on developing essentially an improved M4 or an M4 with a G36 style gas system, I could ultimately end up with a gun that I really wanted, or that we really wanted in the organization I was in, which was a shorter barreled formatted M4 style rifle with a gas piston operating system that would be ideal for confined spaces. That's where it started. It took a couple years to develop. The gun were very well in testing. Initially, it was shipping M4s over to Germany, made sure all that was legal with the government, it was. Then the Germans would reverse engineer it, adapt a piston system to it, do testing and whatnot, and eventually it led to the production run of the 416, which is where we see it today. Now there's been tweaks along the line, but the gun is still essentially the same as it was. It came out in roughly 2004. Very proud of the fact that the gun has seen widespread use and has been involved in some very, very famous special operations missions within just the last couple years. Very proud of my involvement with the gun, but that's where it came from. It came from the need for a gun that was smaller, more along the line of an MP5 that gave you more punch like an M4. All right, TAC TV fans, I got Robbie Reedsma here, HK Defense here in the United States. He's gonna take us through the differences between a 10.4-inch HK 416D. This is the full auto gun used by law enforcement and military, and an HK MR 556A1, the civilian legal version of the 416. Robbie?
Thank you, Larry. The The HK416 comes in a few different barrel lengths. This one is the 10.4 inch model. There's also a 14.5 inch barrel, a 16.5 inch barrel, and a 20 inch barrel as well. The handguard on this is 9 inches long. This is going to be the same length handguard that's on the MR556. It's got a collapsible buttstock. Same thing as on the MR556 with a collapsible buttstock. There's two different butt pads you can get. One is going to be a concave style butt pad, and then the other one is going to be a convex. Either one of those can come with the guns. And those simply just twist right off and right on, so they're easy to replace depending on what your preference is for shooting styles.
And you got battery storage and whatnot back there, right?
Yep, absolutely correct. There's in the back of the gun, in the buttstock, there's battery storage in the back, and there's room for some small tools. There's multiple sling attachment points that you can see on the buttstock. Whether you're slinging a web through there, you're actually putting a snap link hook type sling inside there, or you're feeding something through basically around the tube or through underneath the tube itself. The buttstock itself is a little bit more of a snag-free design. So you still push in as you would with a normal buttstock. It's just there's nothing actually clicking off of there, or there's no exposed edges. So basically you can slide it that way, or you can pull down on the tab right there. 6 positions that are available on that. On the HK416, basically it's a gas operated short stroke piston design, and what I'll do is I'll walk you through that real quick and show you how that differs from a regular gas impingement system. We'll start off by opening up the free floating rail system on the fore end. There's a screw right here that basically locks that into position. Once that screws out, you can slide your rail system right off the front, and then you're going to have your gas block right here. Inside your gas block is going to be a gas piston, which is right here, and then a operating rod or a pusher rod. What this is doing is this is allowing about 90%, 95% of your hot carbon fouling and your gases and your carbon and everything to go right out the front of the gun. And it's only taking what it needs up into that gas piston to actually cycle the gun. And what this is doing is this is actually keeping your bolt carrier back here, your working group, your bolt head, a lot cleaner, carbon-free with less heat transfer. When the system operates, basically that gas piston is probably coming back about a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch or so, and it's just going like that. That's enough to operate that bolt system. And this is real easy to take down. It's simply you're taking the operating rod out and then your gas piston out. Those two components are easily switched out, easy to clean, easy to get to. Inside your upper receiver, you're going to have your bolt carrier, and your bolt carrier looks like what's common on an M4 or an M16. The big difference is actually going to be that there's no gas key. Basically it's all one-piece bolt carrier, and it's a hardened anvil striking surface right there where my finger's at. That's allowing a lot more ruggedized version, so the top of this is not going to shear off, which is common when you'll actually pin that on. On the bolt carrier, one of the other features we have is a firing pin safety lever, which is a lever that's right on top of the firing pin safety. As your hammer comes up, that's actually going to allow that to come up and out of the way, and that's allowing your firing pin to go forward and actually ignite the primer.
And that little key point is going to become critical when people look at buying the MR556 A1 upper. They have to make sure they have a mil-spec hammer in order to trip the firing pin safety.
Yes, absolutely correct. There's some aftermarket hammers that are out there that won't have the height or the mass to disengage that firing pin safety. Again, it's a small amount, but as long as it's big enough to do that, like in a mil-spec hammer, yeah, that's enough to overcome that safety feature. The charging handle is a regular charging handle, just like everything else in the common variation of the 416. Inside the lower receiver, your buffer is going to have a red dot on there and the HK logo. It's a heavier buffer and buffer spring that's inside here, so if you do use our upper receiver on another gun, you need to make sure that you also use that HK buffer and the buffer spring. It's not to say it won't work with something else, but your chances of having a stoppage are going to go higher.
It was developed specifically with that, and part of the operating mechanism. I've seen people shoot 416s on semi-auto with a standard buffer and get by with it, but where you generally see issues with different types of ammo and full auto.
Yes, absolutely.
It's going to definitely work best if they're running the HK buffer and buffer spring with it.
Yep, absolutely correct.
Good deal. Now, if you would, take us into the MR556, show the similarities and the differences.
Okay, in the MR556A1, which is this system right here, basically it's the same design, same operating system as the HK416, so you're still going to have your gas piston and your pusher rod up top, same bolt carrier. I'll walk you through what is different on the MR556 commercial variant compared to a government version HK416. So the MR556A1 is basically the commercial equivalent to the HK416. That's going to come with a 16.5-inch barrel length like you see right here, 9-inch free-floating rail system, still got the adjustable buttstock, and most importantly, it's got the short-stroke gas piston operation. So your internals are, as far as the operating system go, are identical to the HK416. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some of the differences. Like we said, we've got the barrel, which is a 16.5-inch barrel. It's just available in that one length. I'm going to undo the screw to the free-floating rail system. And one of the things you're going to see when we take off that handguard is you're going to see a bigger barrel profile. What we did is we increased the barrel profile on here, so that way it's going to lend itself to a more accurate system. Also, the barrel on the MR556 is not chrome lined, so that increases the accuracy as well. Going back to the rear of the gun, on the charging handle, you'll see it comes with the extended version of the charging handle, and this is also reversible, so you can actually take the pins out and it'll go from a right-handed shooter on the left-hand side to a left-handed shooter on the right-hand side, so you can switch that over as well. One of the things you'll notice is on the selector lever, that's ambidextrous. So again, left-handed or right-handed shooters, that's just coming standard on the gun. It's got a polymer dust cover on that. Your buttstock is 6-position buttstock. One of the differences on the buttstock is that there's a tool in the back of the buttstock, so you can twist your buttstock plate open. You can take this Allen wrench out, and you can actually use this to lock your buttstock in a position. So it takes any small amount of play that's inside there, it takes that completely out, locks the whole system up just for a more solid position. One of the things that we did differently when it comes to taking the upper and lower receiver apart is you'll notice on the push pins right here and right here, the front and rear, is these are under a detent pressure. So using that same tool that's coming out of your buttstock, you actually push in on that, and that's going to allow that to actually come out, or you're going to push on it and it'll allow it to close again. What that push pin is doing on the upper and lower receiver connection points is that is actually allowing a completely solid lockup between your upper and lower receiver, so that there's no play, no wobble in there, and that's, again, going back to the accuracy, it's increasing the stability of the system into one solid gun. Internally, you can see that it's like any other stoner lower type design or HK416 design, and then of course we have our heavier buffer with the red dot on there, and then heavier buffer spring. Inside the bolt carrier itself, one of the other differences is going to be a cutout, like a half moon shaped cutout that you can see right here. That is going to align inside the receiver extension, and what that does is that allows us so that a HK416 fully automatic bolt will not fit into the MR556 and fire. Basically it'll stop.
Now, one thing, Robbie, I want to ask, I've been told these pins, push pins, are interchangeable with standard mil-spec pins. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So if you didn't want the that solid lockup on there, you can change that out to a regular takedown pin that's on a 416 or a M4 type lower.
Like for somebody who's switching uppers quickly and whatnot and doesn't really want that feature.
Correct.
Okay. Now, also, one of the things I want to point out we were talking about on camera is the ability for this gun to go on safe with the hammer forward, which is unlike other M16 AR style weapon systems.
Yes, absolutely. One of the safety design when we went back and redesigned some of this gun is that was one of the features just to allow the gun to be a little bit more safe.
Which I'm a fan of, by the way. That's one of the things. And remember, in the real world, you take the average guy who's not really a gun guy in the military or let's say law enforcement, they're keeping their finger on the trigger maybe at the wrong time, and they're loading and unloading the gun. It sets up the conditions for them to have an accidental discharge. If you can leave the gun on safe, that's just another measure of safety. I'm a fan of it. I thought it was a great feature. Kudos to the Germans for that.
Yeah, what we'll do is the gun's charged and it's clear. It's on fire right now. Pull the trigger, goes click, but yet we can still click the selector right back over onto safe, even though the trigger's already been pulled. So, yeah, absolutely a more safe design for the average shooter.
And that's a standard feature with all HK small arms. This gun's unique because it really came from a pre-existing gun in the M16 and M4, and then the Germans kind of redesigned it and kind of put their twist on it for the 416. So this is something they kind of, now they're bringing this back around to where they've been from the G3, MP5, right down the line.
Absolutely correct. It's all about the product improvements. Basically, you always want to take your product and make it better and more user friendly to everybody that's out there.
Now, next thing we're going to do here, we're going to get a mil-spec lower. I have a Bravo company lower that our good friend Paul at Bravo sent us. We're going to put this upper on the Bravo company lower and light it up. Stand by for that. All right, time to test fire the conversion here. Got the BCM lower, the HK MR556A1 upper installed. Let's see how it goes. Okay, runs like a champ. Now, two things to be aware of. You want to make sure you swap out the buffer spring with the unit that comes with the HK upper, and make sure you have a mil-spec hammer in terms of the height of it and the profile will trip the firing pin safety in the MR556 upper. You do that, it should run like a champ. All right, Robbie, run us through this test.
This is going to be the water test for the HK416. Basically, we're going to load up the gun, put it in the water, let it sit there for a little bit, and then we'll pull it out and shoot it down range. There's a couple of key features inside the weapon system that we call over the beach features, and these allow the gun, gives it a level of safety. So if the gun is transported through the water, dropped in the mud, what have you, buried in a sandstorm, the gun's still going to function at the end of all that.
All right, now do not try this at home. We're trained professionals and we have safety measures in place. This is definitely a stunt you don't try in your own backyard. Robbie, go for it. One of the things a gun like a 416, a piston gun brings to the table if you get in something like water, you don't have to worry about the water getting up in that gas tube on a direct impingement weapon system. The problem there is if you were to fire the gun out of the water on, say, a standard M4 M16, you always run the risk of that water being in there, that gas comes in, it ruptures the gas tube. That's a major, major concern, and that's why anytime you're in and around water with a conventional direct impingement gas system, you have to drain the water out of it.
The HK416, because of the pusher rod system and the short stroke piston, you don't have a lot of those concerns. Additionally, there's, we'll do barrel testing and everything with the Bolts barrel, so it's gonna hold up a lot better coming out of the water and firing.
It's kind of a niche need, but albeit it's a need that is required for certain members of the special operations community. Light it up. Pretty impressive, dude. That's where the gas piston operation really pays off.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to worry about any of the capillary action in the gas tube or nothing like that. That's impressive.
Yep. I mean, we could do it all day long with this. It's a good safety feature for the gun. it lets you know as a user that you can put this gun through some serious abuse, and the gun is still going to function.
Now, is this something that HK did on their own, or was this at a request to end users, like Naval Special Warfare or anybody like that?
Basically, it's at a request to improve the gun so that it can be done and swam with, but it's something that HK basically did on their own as far as to increase the performance of the weapon system.
Now, was this a 416 specific style modification, or is this something they've done in the past on other guns, or do you know?
Well, with the 416, that's where they put the OTB measures into place. I'm not sure if they've done it in the past before that or not.
Cool. We'll get ready for the next test coming up. Well done, Robbie. That was way cool. All right, Robbie, next test, world famous HK sand test, correct?
Correct.
Talk us through it.
Basically what we'll do is we'll take the HK 416, we'll load this up, we'll bury it with sand, and then we'll pull it up out of the sand and shoot the target.
Cool. Now, is this part of your little demonstration kit you bring on the road?
Yeah, typically we're not usually doing a lot of the sand and water tests. We'll usually just use video footage to show folks what the gun's capable of doing. However, yep, you see it right here, so we got the capability to do that.
All right, bro, go at it.
Alrighty.
The sand test, as we've seen, the M4, M16 style weapon actually does very well in those, and the 416 is certainly no exception. The gun is very sealed up, especially when you close the ejection port. And HK does extensive testing on their small arms in a variety of conditions, and I knew when I went through the sand test it would be no issues at all. I've seen that movie before, I knew how it ended. It's a very closed gun, and interestingly enough, the M14 or the M1 Garand has a fantastic reputation for reliability, but it is much more exposed to the elements, especially in a sand or dirt or debris environment, than the M16 or the M4 or the HK 416 is.
Features of the 416, basically you're closing up the operating system to the exposure to the sand, and that's really one of the main things. Whether it's with the dust cover or the rail system, all your internals, you're keeping the sand out of those areas.
Very nice.
Clear.
Well done. I know one of the things early on, TAC TV viewers might find this interesting, when they first were doing the 416, at the time it was called HKM4, they had some issues with the spring up there and getting debris in it, so they had to come up with the correct spring coils so that debris did not affect the pusher rod.
Yeah, it could very well be possible.
Now, obviously, they fixed that a long time ago. Gun runs like a champ. Of course, we expected it to do exactly that.
Yep.
Well done. Next up, Robbie has some key details about the HK 416 operating system. Robbie?
Basically what we're going to do here is we're going to remove the rail system off the front of the gun to expose the inner workings of the gas piston and the operating rod, so we can actually show you how that's actually working when it's being fired.
Good deal, brother. Light it up.
Clear.
Good deal. Now, one thing we can show the folks at home is this still remains very cool to the touch. Obviously, you wouldn't want to touch the barrel,
right?
Nor would you want to touch the gas piston, but you can touch the pusher rod with no problem.
Yep. Yeah, pusher rod's fine. It's not hot at all.
Good deal, and that translates, as we will see, into less heat in the bolt carrier group.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. That's next up. On this training tip brought to you by Daniel Defense, I'm going to talk to you about the proper use of an extended rail. The gun is HK's MR556A1, and the rail is Daniel Defense's new rail for the HK 416. It's also adaptable on the civilian MR556. It's extended, it gets you out past the gas block. It's also lighter and smaller, and it's modular, meaning you can put the rail sections where you want them. It was developed at the request of some special operations forces using the HK416. It's just now coming on the market. I get farther out on the gun, actually to the point where I'm up near the gas block, hence why I need an extended rail. And I want to make sure I always pull the gun straight back in my shoulder, no matter what your position, standing, kneeling, prone, shooting on the move, whatever. The best compensator you have going for you is the ability to pull that gun straight back in the shoulder, as if you're driving a stake through your shoulder. If you do that, you'll control this gun much better than any other technique that I've seen. Now, the trend in rails today, and this one's a good example, are smaller, lighter diameter and modular. And that allows you to put the rails where you want them, and then you don't have the rails where you don't need them. Robbie, what's up next?
What we're going to show you next, Larry, is the operating system, the HK416. We'll do a series of magazines with a lot of short bursts and full auto fire. At the end of that, we'll break the weapon open, and we'll show you the bolt carrier to show you how that there is not a lot of heat transfer and not a lot of carbon fouling on the bolt carrier group, and how that's a benefit to the system.
Cool, cleared hot, bro. Now, when it comes to heat or a lot of fully automatic fire, a gun like the 416 is going to do better than a direct impingement gun, or I would even argue a gun like an AK, where the gas piston is essentially attached to the bolt carrier. Because remember, that radiated heat can come all the way back through the bolt carrier into the bolt. Now, certainly in a direct impingement guns, that's one of the things about it. If you shoot a lot of fully automatic fire, you're going to heat the gun up big time. That leads to, less life in terms of the operating components, and it dries out your lubricant. That's where the advantages of something like a 416 or a gas piston system comes in.
So the majority of the heat's actually kept up inside the gas block area or towards the end of the barrel. It's getting rid of about 90–95% of the hot carbon fouling and that heat out the front of the gun. So your operating rod is not transferring all that heat back to your bolt carrier, your bolt group, and that's allowing the system to run a lot cleaner and a lot smoother. There's less heat transfer, there's less carbon fouling, and it maintains the parts a lot longer that way, and it's a cleaner running system.
No surprise, because of that, the HK416, now known as the M27, won the Marine Corps Infantry Automatic Rifle contract because it allows the operating mechanism of the gun to remain cooler. That allows you a higher sustained rate of fire. So if it's a gun that you know you're going to be shooting a lot of fully automatic fire on, a piston gun like the 416 is a distinct advantage.
Okay, we are clear. And as you can see, the gun's the front of that piston is definitely steaming and definitely hot. We'll break that open. We actually get to the bolt itself. If you want to grab that.
Yep.
There's hardly anything to it at all.
Cool to the touch and relatively clean.
Yep.
That's the benefit to the piston operation. You don't get the heat transfer coming back through the operating mechanism into the reciprocating parts in the receiver.
And that's allowing us to get a much higher sustained rate of fire and less cook-off with more rounds for the gun.
And this is one of the reasons why this gun, in a different format, was adopted as the M27 by the Marine Corps.
Yes,
the infantry automatic rifle.
Correct. That's one of the benefits to it. Yep.
Excellent, dude. Thank you much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay, it's time for me to take you through where the operating system for the HK416 came from. Because essentially, other than the operating system, it's an M4. Now, it all started back in the day with the Soviets when they designed the SVT-38 and the SVT-40 battle rifles. They were somewhat of a failure in World War II, but one thing that did carry over was the operating system on that particular rifle. The gas system carried over to this lineage, and the operating system, meaning the bolt lockup, carried over to the FNFAL. And what I have here is an AR-180, which is a semi-automatic version of the AR-18. It has an SVT-40 style operating system with a pusher rod, return spring, and a gas piston which is fixed and a cup that fits over top of it. What ends up happening, when it comes back far enough, it vents gas underneath the handguard. Now, HK saw this operating mechanism on the AR-18 or AR-180, including the bolt and bolt carrier, adapted it and put their own spin with it on the G36. Now, the bolt carrier and bolt are very similar between the two. Return spring's a little bit different, but when you look at the pusher rod and the gas piston, it's very similar. Big difference that HK did, They have a nipple on the front of their gas piston that vents the excess gas out the front. Now the unique thing about that, it becomes somewhat self-regulating. So it kind of adjusts to the different gas pressure of the rounds that you're firing, and whatever time it takes to push it back to cycle the action, that's what it needs, and it vents off the rest of the gas. It's also why when they adapted that same gas system over to the 416, or in this case the MR556A1, that's why the rail has to come off in order to access the gas system, much like the G36 handguard has to come off, and with the AR-180 or AR-18 you have to take the top handguard off. You have to access the gas system through the rear, not through the front, on something like an FNFAL per se. That's where this lineage came from, and it's also the reason why there's very little heat transfer, and the heat carbon fouling by and large stay up in the gas piston area. You don't have to worry about it coming back in the operating group. This is where it came from. Technically it's a gas tappet system, but if you want to know the lineage on the 416, right here it is. Well, if you're a fan of the HK416, you definitely want to come in next episode because we have the M27 Infantry Automatic Rifle variant of the 416, recently adopted by the U.S. Marine Corps as their automatic rifle. You definitely don't want to miss it. First time ever on television. I'm Larry Vickers, the host of TAC TV. I'm a trained firearms professional with years of experience in the industry. So unless you're properly trained, never attempt anything you see on this show, ever. This episode is all about the HK M27 Infantry Automatic Rifle as adopted recently by the United States Marine Corps. We have here as a special guest, a friend of mine, Robbie Reedsma, who has been in charge of the program for HK and been interfacing with the Marine Corps and is himself a retired Marine Scout sniper. He's here, we're gonna have a great time lighting this gun up. Stand by. The 416 and M27 are essentially identical. You have a little bit different configuration in barrel length per se. The most popular 416 variant out there, hands down, is the 10.4 inch model. That's the most popular in special operations, and that's where the biggest advantage comes in and where it was really developed for CCB operations. Now you fast forward to the M27, it's more in a carbine format with a 16 inch barrel, but other than that, it's identical gun. It has a bayonet lug on it.
It works off the short stroke gas piston operation. So you have a gas block, a piston, and then a pusher rod up underneath the handguard here, the free floating rail system. That's allowing less heat transfer, less carbon buildup back to your operating group and the bulk carrier. It's keeping that cleaner and cooler. The majority of your hot carbon fouling is basically vented right out the front of the system through the barrel or through the exhaust vent.
Because of the gas piston operation, it allows the gun to maintain cooler operating temperatures, and that gives you a more sustained fire capability over, say, a direct impingement gun. That's enough of a difference where that gun can come to the table and get the job done in an infantry automatic rifle format.
The M27 infantry automatic rifle started with the Marine Corps in about 2001 timeframe, and then it basically went out to industry at around 2007 timeframe when it became competitive. The Heckler Koch M27 infantry automatic rifle that you see here is basically what the Marine Corps is going with. It gives them an improved capability with a lighter weight, more accuracy, and it's still maintaining a high sustained rate of fire for the automatic rifleman. The M27 designation is for 2nd Battalion 7th Marines, which in recent time frame did the field testing for the proof of concept for the M27 or the infantry automatic rifle.
I've fired obviously countless rounds through 416s. This is my first time firing an M27. I actually tried to get Robbie on the show about a year ago, if possible, but the project was still kind of being developed, and it wasn't really a sure thing that HK was going to get the contract, so he wanted to hold off and let the dust settle before he came on the show. This year, obviously, the way things have shooken out, it has now been officially adopted by the Marine Corps. I love the gun, great gun, a big HK 416 fan, as you can imagine, because of my personal involvement. I find it interesting where we have these niche roles where, like the M27 or an SPR per se, not necessarily a full-blown belt-fed or automatic rifle per se, or a gun that's a full-blown sniper rifle, but you can actually blend it and morph it into those roles and get a very effective job done. It gives you commonality with magazines and ammunition with the other guys in your squad. Guys are carrying more weight now than they ever have before, so anything we can do to make sure they're carrying the same ammo, same magazines, and kind of cross commonality, that's a good thing for the guy on the ground. All right, TAC TV fans, we're back out here in North Carolina. My good buddy Robbie Reedsman is here to help us from HK. We have the M249 SAW, M16A4, and the M27 HK IAR, and we're going to do a little burst comparison first up. We have a target downrange, one of our flipping target cardboard targets up, and that's going to be our aiming point. I'm going to do a burst. We're use the 3-shot burst out of the M16A4 as the baseline. We're going to do 3 bursts per gun. I'm going to try to do 3-shot bursts for all of them. Between Robbie and I, we're going to spot and shoot. Then we're going to go down, measure and compare and film it for you so we can see the burst radius at 50 yards on this cardboard target. Now, you might ask, why aren't we doing it farther? Well, it's real simple. We only have cardboard that's so big, we want to be able to trace all the shots, so we're doing it at 50. And we're going to see between the 3 guns which one has the tightest dispersion downrange. Robbie, you ready?
Yep, ready.
Let's do it, bro. All 3 weapons are capable of fully automatic fire. The M16A4 has 3-shot burst, and the SAW has full auto only, and the M27 brings semi-automatic and fully automatic only to the market. It doesn't have the 3-shot burst like the M16A4. What we're looking to do here is essentially look at the dispersion downrange and see what kind of a spread we're going to get in the full auto mode. Be interesting to see how it goes. I think the M27 is going to fare pretty well. It has closed bolt operation over the M249 SAW. Both the guns fire off a bipod, which should be an advantage over the M16A4. Okay, going hot.
Okay, on target.
All right, Robbie, let me clear it out. We'll head down and check it. All right, bro.
Yeah, basically the first one you shot was just right below the bowl.
Yeah, because I was aiming center.
And then the next 2 were center, and then there was one left, one right, up by shoulder, and then I lost track after that. So first shot was right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the burst, it was 1 in here, 1 there, and 1 up here. And then the next one was 2 down here, 1 up there. So it's, I mean, all said and done, it's not too shabby.
Yeah, and I could track it through the ACOG. With the reticle one, I could just watch it. And I was monopoding on the magazine, pulling it back, but nevertheless, I still tracked it. Why don't you make sure you pick this one up?
Oh, yeah, I didn't.
Because that's the width of the burst. Okay, 2 farther shots. 15.5 inches?
15.5.
Okay. We'll have to write that down, and then we'll paste it up, put up a new target, and then we'll roll to the SAW next.
Okay.
Which will be a little bit of a challenge. It's open bolt, and it doesn't have a burst mechanism, so I'm gonna have to make sure I stay on the trigger and try to get 3-shot bursts. All right, bro, we'll set it up. All right, Robbie, going hot with the SAW.
On scope here. Okay.
Is that 4?
That was 4.
Okay. 3. 3. All right, let me clear her out. All right, we got 10. I really wanted to shoot 9, 3 3-round bursts, but 1 got away from me. Remember, this is not a burst fire gun; it's full auto only, so I had to, count the burst on the as I let them go. All right, so we have 10 on here. We've accounted for all 10. If you measure all 10, it's 17 inches. Okay, and that counts because they were all shot. If you measure, you count that was a flyer, then it's a lot less. It's actually 11. But actually it's pretty good. And I tracked it through the ACOG and it tracked pretty good. The bipod was a factor there. Remember on the A4 I had to monopod it. I had it on the magazine and I was pulling it back via the vertical foregrip, and I was pulling it back straight to my shoulder, but I still was in monopod. The point of contact for the gun was much farther from the muzzle than it was for the saw. So that's part of what we're seeing here. So the saw, let's go ahead and throw that in there. Would be 17, right?
Yeah, 17.
Yep, 17 for the saw. And we will put up a new target and then paste them up. All right, Robbie, going hot with the M27.
Okay, I'm up on scope.
I'm gonna do my best for the 3-shot burst.
Okay.
Here we go.
The accuracy with the M27 IAR, it has to be at least 5 minutes of angle or better, and that's with a 5-round group and using M855 green tip ammunition. Typically the guns so far, on average, have done about 2.5 minutes of angle or better. So it's phenomenally accurate. It's about twice as accurate as the M16A4 is over the service life of the gun.
Whoa.
It goes 4.
4?
Yep.
Shoots a little faster.
Yep. 3.
3.
3.
Okay. So I basically did the same thing I did with the saw, a 4, a 3, and a 3.
Yep, correct.
Okay, this is the group for the M27. We got all 10, and like I was telling Robbie, when I was tracking, I could watch the reticle for the Trijicon work to the right. First burst caught me off guard because it has a little bit higher cyclic rate of fire, so it was 4, 3, and 3, just like with the saw. And then we have a pretty good group here. We're gonna measure it. We have all 10 shots, so 9.5 inches. The two farthest shots. That's even less than saw, even if you'd have taken that flyer out. It opened it up to 17. That's pretty good. You know, I think that's where a little bit higher cyclic rate helps, honestly.
Yeah, it keeps them, well, with the recoil of the gun, with the piston gun, it's more of a straight back. There's a little bit more weight to the M27, which helps maintain itself in the full auto fire. And yeah, with the piston gun, it's a little faster.
I think
and
there's a little bit higher cyclic rate.
Keeps them right in there.
We know cyclic rate is always a trade-off. If you go a little bit, if you go too fast, it's going to bite you, like on like an MG42 or whatnot. And if you're too slow, it can kind of bite you. You got to find that middle ground. Honestly, I think a little bit higher cyclic rate in this case helps.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. That dramatically better. That's very cool. On to the next test. The results were kind of interesting. The monopod effect of shooting the M16A4 off the magazine kind of hurt it, but that's to be expected. You don't normally have a bipod on that weapon, so the fact that your pivot point is much closer to the fire definitely had more dispersion involved. The open bolt operation of the saw really didn't hurt it much. And once again, we fire it off a bipod, so it did pretty well. The X factor was the fact that the M27 had a little bit higher cyclic rate of fire. So in the time it took, let's say, a saw to fire 3 rounds, you were essentially firing 4 rounds in the M27. That allowed for more shots on target in a tighter group. That was kind of what surprised me the most of the whole dispersion test. Hey, if you're the kind of guy that would rather be out shooting one of these than playing a round of golf, you're at the right place. Stay tuned for more TAC TV. Okay, it's time for the next test with the M27. Robbie Reedsman is going to spot me once again using the M16A4, M249 saw, and the M27. This is a combination of burst and accuracy. I'm going to put a burst with each weapon on the 100-meter steel target. I have a full-size MGM steel target at 100, and then I'm going to take a precise single shot at the 300-meter target. Do it from the prone. He's going to spot me. We're going to run through all 3 guns, then we'll roll down and check the hits. You ready, Robbie?
Ready.
Let's do it, bro. The next test we're setting up evaluates the weapons to do a burst in one situation and then switch very quickly to, say, a more accurate shot at distance. So we have a shot where we're shooting at a piece of steel fairly up close on burst mode, and then we take a shot at distance, say 300 meters, for a more accurate single shot. The M16A4 ought to do pretty well on this, I would assume, other than the fact that once again we don't have a bipod for the burst mode. The thing that's going to hurt the Assault fires from note and bolt, and it's fully automatic only. And despite the fact it's on a bipod, the M27 kind of bridges that gap. You have the bipod capability, you have fully automatic capability, and it has closed bolt capability for that precise shot at distance. My guess is it's going to walk the dog. All right, Robbie, A4's up first. Now I'm going to favor low on the steel. Based on what we saw on the paper here at 50, I know I'm going to have a high right dispersion, so I'm going to hold low on the steel and try to get all 3 shots on it.
Okay, sounds good. I'm on scope.
All right, going hot.
Hit.
All right, now I'm going to try the single shot at 3.
On target. Hit. Hit 6 o'clock.
Okay, right at 6. I was holding right about the base of the neck.
Okay.
So how low was it?
It's bottom, right at the bottom of the target on the left-hand side.
Okay, good deal. Now what about the 100? How many shots did I get on it?
On the 100, honestly, it's hard to tell. I know there's at least 1 impact on there, just below center.
Okay. All right, now we'll try the saw. Actually, no surprise on how the M16A4 did. We expected to get good hits on distance. Unfortunately, in the 3-shot burst mode and because of the monopod, we were not able to get more than 1 shot at the close target in a burst. All right, Robbie, saw's up now.
Okay.
And I'm ready for the 100-meter steel.
Okay, I'm at the 100-meter looking on it, ready to go.
All right, here we go.
You got at least 2 hits on there.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to get a single shot off at the 300 if I can. All right, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. It's low.
Hit low?
Yep.
Okay. I got 2 off, but it hit low. All
yep.
right.
They were, yeah, you're going to have to come up probably about 6 feet.
Okay. And then that was using that 300-meter tip.
Okay.
So, and we know this thing's hitting low, so I'll try the 600-meter tip.
Okay. Hit. Basically just below center, right below the circle.
So once we adjusted the hold for saw, it was on. The saw kind of surprised me in respect that I was able to get the first shot at distance on the steel, which was pretty impressive. All right, Robbie, I've got the M27 on the 100-meter steel for the burst.
Okay, I'm ready to observe.
All right, here we go.
Hit, center.
Oh yeah, dude. That's where that cyclic rate of fire kicks in. How many hits did I get?
I can only see 1 when the plate kicked open. So where the other 2 went, I honestly don't know.
Right,
it could have went right through the trap door.
It could be. In all honesty, the reticle stayed on the target the whole time. All right, now let me try it 3.
On target.
Going on.
Hit.
You hit it?
Yep, that was a hit.
Excellent. Dude, I'm pretty impressed.
That last one you got was basically just below center, just below that circle trap door.
And then the M27, as predicted, did the best. We had the burst fire capability on the close target, and we had the precise shot capability at the distance. And one thing that helped for sure on all the guns was the ability for that Trijicon to range and apply some holdover that Robbie Reedsma helped me with and make an accurate shot. So that scope kind of paid off in those scenarios. Well, I can see why the Marine Corps picked this gun, because really it has an excellent balance between burst controllability, like on that 100-meter piece of steel. Like I said, the reticle from the Trijicon never even left the target, and then I can roll right over, flip it to semi-automatic, close bolt operation, use the exact same reticle and take a precise shot at distance. It's a pretty cool gun, pretty cool package, and I can see why, once again, the Devil Dogs are digging it. Let's roll down range and check the hits. Okay, this is the MGM steel we're shooting at 100. Now you see it's actually smaller than man size. Kind of a tough target to hit. And also when we shot with the M16A4, you've got that monopod effect on the magazine. so the gun kind of wants to rock during recoil, so that's where some of the shots get scattered off. So we had good first round hits on all the guns, but in the burst mode, the M27, did better, higher cyclic rate, and we also fired it off the bipod. And we're pretty confident at least one of the shots after the M27 hit it went through. That's kind of a byproduct of the higher cyclic rate of fire and the fact it was fired off a bipod. Remember, bipod makes a big difference. Also, the closer you get it to the muzzle makes a big difference. So that's why you saw better accuracy in burst mode with guns like the SAW and the M27 over the M16A4. Now we're going to roll out to 300 and check the precise hits on that steel. All right, Robbie, if you would, take me through the hits here.
Yep, we got the M16A4 down low right here, and then the M249 SAW right here, and the M27 right here.
Okay. Now for the show, we had to swap the optic, which I'm sure you probably caught at home, between the M27 and the M249. So I actually had to hold up here for the Trigicon on the M249. That was the first shot of a 2-shot burst. So obviously the second shot's gone. And then when we were on target with the M27, obviously if we shot more, we'd want to adjust it and get a little bit to the right, but all three got hits, which is good.
Yep, absolutely.
Now with the M249, it's almost impossible to get a single shot, especially under conditions of stress like in combat. I was able to get 2 shots off, but generally it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5, so those other shots are going to be gone unaccounted for. That's where having a semi-automatic option in either the A4 or the M27 is a big plus. Good deal. On to the next test. All right, TAC TV viewers, it's time to highlight the newest member of the HK semi-automatic rifle family, the MR762A1. Now, in the same fashion that the MR556A1 is the semi-automatic counterpart to the 416, this rifle is the semi-automatic counterpart to the HK417. Essentially the same layout. And one of the things HK did in the gun, instead of borrowing a lot of the AR style features that we see in the United States with 308 guns, they developed a lot of things on their own. So there's not a lot that's reverse compatible with 7.62 ARs that we have here. Proprietary magazine based on the HK G36 magazine. It's essentially a 20 round mag and it has the same greenish tint you can see through to see the rounds in the mag. Has a free float system, but unlike the one on the 416 or the 5.56, it has 2 lugs that lock it into the trunnion. Heavy non-chrome line barrel, similar style gas system to the one on the 5.56, and the buffer tube's larger and has a different buttstock and buffer assembly. Essentially the same layout, but very much so the bigger brother to the 416 MR 5.56. Okay, one of the distinct advantages a magazine-fed weapon like the M27 has is the ability to reload it quickly, much more so than a weapon like the M249 SAW. Now to highlight this, me and Robbie Reedsma did a little side-by-side comparison for you to check out. Next up is the reload test. And to be honest with you, we kind of already know how this is going to shake out. A belt-fed gun is dramatically slower to reload than a magazine-fed weapon. The trade-off, of course, is you have more ammunition. And we have 200-round belt inside that box underneath the M249 SAW. But we just want to demonstrate the difference between what it takes to reload the SAW and what it takes to reload a weapon like the M27. Okay, Robbie, recap here. How many mag changes did you get through?
We've got through 3 and I was on the 4th.
Okay. My reload on the SAW went pretty well. As you know, those links that lay on the feed tray, those can be a bugger. I had to get those out of the way. Other than that, it went pretty smooth. So in the time it took for you to do 3 and getting on to a 4th, now granted you're doing 3-shot bursts.
Right.
We did that on purpose. That was the time it took for me to get a new drum or 200-round belt into the SAW. Keeping in mind, ideal conditions, bright daylight, not at night. Obviously, a magazine-fed gun like that is going to be far easier to reload than a belt-fed like the SAW. Saw that movie coming. Well, it's no surprise on the results between reloading an M249 saw and an M27. That's what you're going to get when you have a belt-fed weapon versus a magazine-fed weapon. Key difference is sustained fire capability, so you have to weigh out what's most important to you at that given time in that given situation. One of the most common questions when it comes to the HK416 or the MR556 is why is the magazine well shaped the way it is? It's different than a standard, say, American-made M4 style carbine. And one of the primary reasons is reverse compatibility with HK's blank fire magazine. This magazine was developed in conjunction with the British SA-80 program, and because of the magazine well shape, it was designed around that platform. There's a filler up front that prevents live rounds from being down inside the magazine. You can still get 3 live rounds on top if you had ill intentions, but only blanks can actually go down in the magazine. If you use it in conjunction with HK's blank adapter, which has the ability to capture those 3 live rounds, it virtually eliminates the possibility of somebody being killed by live rounds in a blank fire training exercise. That's the reason why the 416 MR556 has the magwell shape that it does. All right, TAC TV fans, I figured it was high time to clue you in on some of the stuff that Bravo Company brings to the table for you and the show. I was talking to Paul, the owner of Bravo Company, at SHOT Show this year, and I wanted to highlight some of the stuff he carries on his website, BravoCompanyUSA.com. First up is this charging handle. It's the BCM Gunfighter charging handle, and it has several different variations with extended latches, and even the signature gun I had with Daniel Defense, I specified the BCM Gunfighter Mod 5 on it, which is my personal favorite. With the key design features on the BCM Gunfighter charging handle, not only is it made out of the finest materials out there, but the latch itself bottoms out on the T-handle. You don't have to worry about that pin on a normal charging handle latch taking the stress and potentially failing on you at the worst possible time. Now, that's a rare occurrence. We know how Murphy's Law works. Paul has updated models coming out, one that has a skirt that drops down that kind of acts almost as a shield in case you're shooting suppressed, and also what he calls a leather neck collar, which also acts as a shield for suppressor use. Overall, really good slick piece of kit. Been very well received in the tactical market. If you have not checked it out, go over to his website and order one up, bro. You'll dig it. Going hot. Okay, one of the key things the M27 brings to the table over the M249 saw is maneuverability. To take you through some of the details, Robbie Reedsma has a drill he's going to run you through. Robbie, take it away.
Thank you, Larry. We're basically just going to do some shooting and moving to walk you through the M27 and show you how it's a lot more maneuverable.
One of the advantages that the M27 brings to the table over, say, something like an M249 saw is essentially it's a lighter weapon and it's easier for a soldier to maneuver with that. Bottom line, even a belt-fed weapon like the saw, and granted it's in 5.56, so it's much lighter than it would be in 7.62, it still can be a very cumbersome weapon, let's say in an urban environment when you're doing dynamic movement. So if you have a weapon like the M27 that can kind of fill the gap for an automatic fire mode, there's a niche for it, whereas a saw is actually too big or a little bit too heavy and too bulky to maneuver in those environments.
When you compare the weight of the M27 infantry automatic rifle to the M249 squad automatic weapon, the M27 is half the weight. When you compare it to an M16A4 or M16A2 service rifle, it's right around the same weight.
Overall, I'm pretty impressed with the M27. Obviously, I have a soft spot in my heart for the 416 based on my involvement with it, so I'm very proud for the Marines to have adopted this weapon as the infantry automatic rifle. But above and beyond that, it kind of fills an important niche. I can see why a Marine in an urban environment or in a dynamic situation where weight is a major factor would much rather have a gun like this, knowing that he's going to give up some sustained fire capability over, say, something like an M249 saw. He has a weapon that's lighter and easier to maneuver, and at times that can make all the difference in the world. Well, the 416 and the M27 kind of represent why there is a need or a niche for a piston style weapon. A direct impingement carbine like the M4 or the M16 has done very well in service use, provided it's maintained and taken care of well. Where a piston gun comes in is those shorter formats like the 10.4 inch 416, or in the case of the infantry automatic rifle, the piston operation allows the operating group to stay cooler and allows you to maintain a higher rate of fire and keeping the gun at relatively cooler temperatures. Those are two niches where a piston operated AR makes a lot of sense, and the 416 is definitely the yardstick that everybody has to measure to when it comes to a piston operated AR.
The commercial variant of the M27 infantry automatic rifle, or the HK 416, is going to be the MR 556, and it's going to look a lot like a Bear M27. It's got the same 16.5 inch barrel length. It's just going to have a 2 inch shorter handguard to it.
Well, the M27 infantry automatic rifle has certainly been one of the most talked about small arms choices in recent memory, much like the HK 416 itself. The way I look at it, it's not necessarily replacing the M249 saw, it's augmenting the M249 saw and gives the soldier, or the Marine in this case, an easier weapon to maneuver. I hope it does well. I'm proud to be a part of it, and we'll see you next time back here on TAC TV.